Celebrate pro style and catch the football spirit with the Game On sweepstakes at Albertsons. Look for the Game On player tags when you shop. Buy 3 and enter to win great prizes, like a trip for 4 to a pro game in Orlando. Get Gatorade 8-pack 20-ounce bottles, $4.99 each, plus CRV, selected varieties. And Gatorade Organic 16.9-ounce bottles, $1.79 each, plus CRV, selected varieties. No purchase necessary. Open to residents of Southern California counties listed in rules. 18 years and older. Ends January 3rd, 2017. Enter code by January 10th, 2017. Rules at GameOnSoCal.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Move and Grow at Linda's Lounge, where we motivate and accelerate your life's journey. And today we are talking about humans in training with Jay Allen. And I apologize, I am not getting Jay on the line here, and I'm trying to get him here. So let's see where Jay is at. Jay, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Hi, how are you? Welcome to the show. I don't know what was happening. Anyway,
I can hear you.
I knew and I couldn't hear you, so I thought I would try to go to the live help and ask them what was going on. And we're on recording right now, but that's okay.
Perfect.
I really kind of want to just do an introduction of really about what the show is about. It's humans in training and what we are in training for. And what Jay is going to do, he's a spiritual teacher, and he's going to be talking about who we are and why we are here, finding meaning and purpose in our lives and how we can all make a difference as conscious co-creators. And I think it's so interesting that we're having that topic today because I feel that a lot of people are starting to awaken to who am I and what's my purpose in life, and going out there and trying to search. And for me, and I know for you, it's important of the awareness of people right now that we really do need to start shifting, and we all want this connection in our life and know what we're here for and who we are, and not identifying ourselves by what we drive or the things we have and things like that, and really going to a deeper connection of the authentic self. So I think this topic is perfect for this time right now. And so what I'd like to do is welcome Jay Allen to the show, and he's here on the line.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi. How are you?
Thanks, Phil, to hear you.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I can't hear you, Jay. Where are you? This happened last week, and I actually was never able, or the week before, he was never able to get on the line, and I didn't have a show that day, and I was disappointed. But I realized after I got off that, because I deleted the show out because it really didn't, it never even got taped. And so, I realized there was a bigger picture to this. And I wasn't sure what it was, but I trusted that the universe was making something happen. Right? Yeah, and I just realized that, there was no need to be disappointed, and it was okay because whatever was happening, it was all right. And maybe I just didn't need to have a show that day and needed to relax. Who knows? So I got done. I'm so glad that I didn't need to go through the light help. So.
Wow, well, that's a great realization right there. It's just the way you handled it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's what really, and I'm not sure what Humans in Training is about because I haven't read your book. And I'm really excited to know, anybody that's out there listening, if you want to call into the show, please do call in to 646-716, 9613, excuse me, 9613 if you have any questions for Jay and just to, listen to what we're going to be talking about in the show. But, yeah, realization, that's a huge thing, so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're all on a journey of self-discovery and self-realization, and I think life has a way of getting our attention. And I know for myself, I was a former professional class athlete. I was a hockey player. And
really? Who did you play for? Because my love is hockey. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and Blues were my thing, and all my kids play hockey. And
oh, really?
Yeah,
fantastic.
Love it.
Yeah, well, the last place I played was at university at McGill.
Really?
And McGill's got a great hockey team, great academic, and I had a scholarship offer when I was 18 to Cornell as a goalie. And just one morning, to get up to go to school like usual, I passed out cold coming out of the shower and ended up spending 3 days in a coma before having brain surgery and being diagnosed with a mid-brain tumor and being given 15 months to live.
Now, that didn't have any relation to do with hockey, because, I mean, I know hockey, you can get concussions, and things like that. So did it have anything to do with hockey, or it was just something that
you know what? That's a good question, and I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. I know I've had a few before that. I definitely had a few severe concussions from hockey, where I got knocked out a couple of times from getting a puck in the head or a knee in the head. But so they're not really sure what caused it, but it could have been a combination of those things, or it could have been hereditary. I mean, I'm adopted, and they didn't really know what was going on.
Right. So you came out of the shower and you were coma for 3 days, because I do want to know about how. I think it's important for the callers and listeners to know where you came from and where you're at today and why you're doing what you're doing today.
Well, it's just that really started my journey of self-discovery and self-improvement. I kind of felt like I was going through a midlife crisis at 18. I was looking for answers to life's questions. I'd end up going to McGill, which is kind of the Harvard of Canada, but it still wasn't where I had in my mind where I would be going. And all of a sudden, hockey wasn't satisfying me like it once did, and all of a sudden, school I found frustrating. And I find it amazing that we can have a life-changing experience, and yet we tend to go back to what we're good at. You ever notice that?
So when you meet, let me go step back a little bit. So before the accident, You recognized all this, or was it after the accident?
Well, I think I was already on that journey, because I was already sort of, with my parents that I grew up with, but I was very focused at that time in hockey and school.
Okay.
And and then all of a sudden, wham! I woke up like a week later in the hospital with half my head shaved.
Right.
And at 17, 18 years old, you're more worried about having half your head shaved with graduation coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems like a big problem at the time.
Right.
But they diagnosed me with a midbrain tumor. They told my parents, let him do whatever he wants. He won't be here for very long, and gave me 15 months to live. So that was definitely a real attention getter, especially
at 18. So
and if you're a mom, you can really appreciate that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I have 3 boys. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, my gosh, yeah. It's like, so what are we going to do here, And I think, but now, it's funny because, not funny, but it's interesting that, I'm not sure how old you are or anything, but I know with my own kids, since I've been doing this work for a long time, I'm in a different space. So, you know what I mean? And had I not had this opportunity, I would have felt that way. I still think reactive-wise, I would have totally gone into that, oh, my gosh. But then I would have had to withdraw myself, to say, okay, now wait a minute. What's the divine trying to tell me here? What's really happening here? Because you're not able to speak for yourself, But at that time, that didn't happen for you because, I think that, as parents, we do. There's this initial reaction because it's our child.
Yeah, and at that time I was away from home playing hockey, so I wasn't even at home at that time. So my parents got a phone call while I'm halfway across the country that I'm in a coma and they don't know what's going to happen to me. And they didn't even know what was wrong with me. So that was pretty freaky for them, I think. But my mom flew out, and she was there when I woke up after the surgery. And, I think they handled it really great. Both my parents are very spiritual, and
wonderful.
And so they handled it well, and they, within 6 months, I was back playing hockey at McGill against the doctor's orders and against any common sense whatsoever. But so I thank them for letting me be a little bit, different. And but it was all part of the journey. But then at the same time, my mom also introduced me to books and teachings, and because I was frustrated in university because they weren't asking the questions that I wanted answers to. And they weren't teaching what I wanted to learn.
And what did you want to learn? And what was
I wanted to learn, it's just like as an athlete, I knew I had a specific goal with specific exercises to get me to that goal. I knew how to prepare. I knew how to train. I knew what the purpose of the game was. I knew what the rules were. That's how I gave myself a chance to be successful. And yet all of a sudden when I looked at the game of life, I thought, well, what's the purpose? What are we here for? How do I prepare? How do I train? And I started seeing that, a lot of people just kind of work hard and hope for the best.
Right.
And I had a sense of urgency. All of a sudden, you go through this kind of traumatic event and you have an urgency to find answers. And so I was searching, and that's where my mom was real helpful, introduced me to books, and I had to drive into school every day. I was listening to tapes and reading books and just feel like I was getting little bits and pieces here and there. But most of the stuff I enjoyed the most was, either 50, 100, or 1,000 years old or more.
Really? And what was
Absolutely.
that?
Well, because my whole focus was on human potential, happiness, and peace of mind. That's really what I was striving for. And what better examples do we have of that than you have of Jesus and Buddha and Krishna and Yogananda and other spiritual teachers?
Absolutely.
They are the best examples of human potential, happiness, and peace of mind that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And as I studied more and more of their teachings, I started to see it was really all the same stuff. The wrapping might be a little bit different, but it's really the same universal truth. And I started to think of how could I take those universal truths and put it into a modern language that people could understand. And at the same time, science is finally catching up to what these spiritual teachers taught, which to me is really exciting because now we have scientific proof to validate all this stuff that's been taught for thousands of years. So that's kind of a neat stage in human evolution as well.
Absolutely. Now, when you had mentioned something about earlier, because I know this is kind of you had said, have you ever done something and then gone, like, it's straight off, is what I kind of heard you say, and then you came back to do what you love? Is that what you meant by you were doing the hockey, you had the accident, but then 6 months later you're going back to do what you really love, was the hockey? But
I went back to doing what I was good at. I always thought that there's a bigger purpose to life than stopping frozen hockey pucks. But it's a great training ground for my personal and for my spiritual growth. But all of a sudden now life was trying to get my attention, trying to move me in a different direction.
Got it.
And yet we don't always embrace change. And I think that's where I played hockey at university for 3 years, even though it wasn't satisfying me like it once did. But I didn't know what else to do, so I did what I was good at.
So that's what you meant by that question you had asked.
Yeah, because I always ask people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have these life-changing events, but we go back to what we know rather than where life is trying to take us because it's safe. Perhaps you've experienced that in your life as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's always safer to go back and because you know that you're secure. It's about a comfort zone. There's a whole fear, and I think that's basic. I can't say that so much now. I mean, I still feel that we're all humans. We have the emotions.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into. I just did a retreat this weekend. I don't want to get into that. But basically, that was saying about suffering and struggle, but because we'll never get rid of our thoughts. But at least if we can know that it's a thought and be with the emotion, and then let it pass.
Yeah.
So.
Not react so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that comes with the spiritual awareness and understanding as well. And I just got really frustrated that they weren't teaching what I wanted to learn, and I started looking back at some of the lessons that I learned as an athlete. And one of the things that I recognized is, as an athlete, sometimes I'm in a gym and sometimes I'm not. But in life, I'm always in a gym. In life, I'm always conditioning myself towards some outcome. You never get a day off in life because you're always conditioning life through every thought and emotion and every action.
We're always by that because I'm not sure what I understand what you mean. I sort of get it, but I think for the callers and listeners, if you can kind of expand on that a little bit.
Well, the way that I see it and the way that I like to explain it is, think of your body as a perfect feedback mechanism. You can't fool your body, can you?
No.
You go to the gym, you get results. You don't go to the gym, you still get results. You get results no matter what. It's a perfect feedback mechanism.
Okay,
and to recognize, pardon me?
Oh, because if you don't go to the gym, you're still getting results. But you're not, though. I mean, now my mind...
Well, it may not. You're going to get results because maybe you'll gain weight. It won't be the results that you want.
Got it. Okay, so that kind of helps to understand what you mean by, because people would be like, well, of course I would, I wouldn't get the results if I didn't go to the gym. But you're talking about you're still getting results. It could be gaining weight. It could be whatever. I got it.
Exactly. It may not be the results that you want, but you're going to get results no matter what.
Got it.
And I saw that just like our body's a perfect feedback mechanism, life is a perfect feedback mechanism. Life is always giving back to us because the whole manifestation process is from the inner to the outer, from the invisible to the visible. So we're always creating anyway with our every thought and emotion and action. So whether we're consciously co-creating or whether we're just kind of going through the motions, working hard and hoping for the best, we're always getting results. So what I try to do is to get people to consciously participate in their life by understanding that their life is not an accident, that there's a purpose, there are rules, there's a universal game plan and system already in place, and that we can learn how to prepare and train ourselves just like an athlete does for a big game once we understand how it's played.
Can you tell us about that? How we do all that? For the callers and listeners? So
well, sure.
And the book?
Pardon me?
Does this go into about what the book is about?
Yeah, well, the book is a whole introduction to the Humans in Training philosophy, which says that everything you need, you already have, that you just have to learn how to use what's already been created within. And so to me, that's very powerful. Instead of saying everything you need, somebody else has or it's over there, you already have all that. I mean, think of the things that we value the most in life: love, happiness, confidence, inner peace. Those are all properties of the inner world. They have to come from within. And as long as we try to find them in the outer world, it's never going to be fulfilling, because it's not how the manifestation process works. And, I mean, to me, that's a huge realization.
Absolutely, because we always look for the outer to fill the need for the inner.
Well, that's what we're being sold all the time because of our economic system. Absolutely. Is, hey, this product's going to make you happy. This will take care of that. But a lot of people, they don't do the inner work. Their whole life is focused on the outside, and yet the whole creative process and the things we value the most come from the inside, and then they wonder why something's missing. And for me, it was a big realization when I found out, I was always taught as an athlete my performance was 80% mental. Have you heard that a lot?
No.
Well, as an athlete, that's what I was always taught. My performance was 80% mental, and then I would even teach that as a hockey instructor. And then one day at hockey practice, I asked my coach, I said, Coach, if our performance is 80% mental, why do we spend 2 hours every day specifically and systematically developing our skills while we're ignoring 80% of the results?
Oh, what a great question.
I thought it was a great question.
Yeah.
And then my coach even had a better answer. He told me that if I wanted to get more mental, to use my head to stop the puck and leave him alone.
Oh, jeez. No way.
I thought it was a pretty funny answer.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, come on, to say that to a kid,
Well, goalies have a reputation, as you know, of being a little bit different, right?
Well, I was going to say, when you first mentioned your goalie, I'm like, oh my gosh, your parents. I know many parents that have, I've been around hockey all my life. I mean, my oldest is 14 years, so I can totally relate to that. And yet you, being a goalie, you are a different make of life. I mean, yes. But, I can't say enough about hockey because I love it, so it's.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you like it, so you're saying it. But it's kind of that. My mom never saw me play hockey since I was 13 because she couldn't grasp that concept that if there was a frozen puck coming at her son, if it wasn't going to hit her, he was going to move in front of it.
Right.
That just was a little bit.
Get out of the way.
Exactly. It's going to hurt you.
You have to stand in front and block it. Well.
Exactly.
So then
funny.
So let's let people know. So I would love to have this conversation because it feels really good about what you're saying, and I feel that with the listeners that they can get something that's really a gem, more than a gem out of this, just by what you've been saying, and I'm not really quite sure I still understand it, so I want to understand and I want to know more. So
well, part of what okay. Well, taking it from that 80% mental perspective, what I began to figure out was that, when we worked on our physical skills, like when we work on our physical muscles, there's certain training principles. If I do random training, I get random results. If I do specific training, I get specific results. And with specific preparation and conditioning, my expectations and my confidence increase. And it's easily noted that in sports that success is in direct proportion to preparation and conditioning. So I started looking at these training principles that work on the physical muscles and thought, what if we applied these to the mental muscles, the emotional muscles, and most importantly, the spiritual muscles? Because you understand, as an athlete, as a goalie, I have to develop a really strong core. And we understand that our strength comes from our core. So what's our core in daily life?
Right.
It's our values, it's our beliefs, it's our understanding, know thyself. And so when I started taking these training principles from the physical, applying it to the totality of our being, putting it into the principle that, life, there is a purpose, that we're spiritual and creative beings, our purpose is spiritual growth, and we're here to learn to live as conscious co-creators. That we're all in training to evolve to be one with God. We're all in training to evolve to the Christ consciousness. And if that's the name of the game, that's why I'm here, then I know how to prepare and train myself, just like an athlete does.
Oh.
So that to me was a big realization. And to be able to take those ideas and then just sort of like that, take a training program as well. And then what I also started to notice, one of the important founding principles of what I teach, is that we're not the one exception in the universe, that there are specific laws, principles, and processes that govern our life. Because I started to see that.
How did you come to the realization of all that, though?
Well, I came to the understanding that we live in a perfect world. The world isn't perfect, but we do live in a perfect world. That, from the speed of light, the speed of sound, to the cycle of the planets around the sun, to the cycle of the tides and all that kind of stuff, everything is governed by specific laws, and nothing is left to chance. And I thought, we're not the one exception in the entire universe. There are laws and principles and processes that govern our lives as well. And one of the things I started to recognize is that life is a preparation process, that everything that happens to us in our life is preparing us to fulfill our individual purpose. The skills, the talents, the situations, the life lessons. Because think about the law of attraction. There's been a lot made about the law of attraction after The Secret. But think about in life as a perfect feedback mechanism. When you don't learn a life lesson, the life lesson comes back.
Absolutely.
And isn't that the sign of the law of attraction? We keep attracting this. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. Life is our school, our training ground. We keep attracting these lessons into our life until we learn them. And then when we learn them, we move on to the next one. And so what I thought was really interesting was, isn't that the sign of a really dynamic and intelligent universe?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And isn't that also the sign of a higher purpose? What would we be learning all these lessons for if there wasn't a higher purpose to this whole school? So to me, it just kind of made sense. And so I started thinking about that and going, wow, this is just amazing. Once you become a student of life, it's just unbelievable. You think of the dynamics and the intricacies of the spiritual being the causal level. And, me having the medical, the physical injury, you start to say, well, I don't want to take medication. I don't want to be manipulating effects to get different results. I want to go to the deepest level. And the spiritual is the deepest level. It's the deepest part. It's our core. And so as I started to do the inner work, exercising, gaining control of my mind, beginning to exercise it consciously, as well as my emotions through forgiveness and other things like that, as well as my spirit through meditation, through prayer and things like that, started to get my whole being into shape. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does, but I still, maybe we can give more clarity. So gaining control of your mind, and so what does all that look like? And so how does one, I guess, how would you, on this call, I know we have not that much time, we've got 37 minutes or, left, but how would you start to begin to help people to have this awareness? So
awareness of a weakness is the beginning of strength. Right? You can't fix something until you know it's broken. And we sort of live in a society that says if it's not broken, what?
Don't fix it.
Don't fix it. And to me, that's really stupid. Because why wait till it's broken in order to make it better? And think about life, that you're here to learn. There's two ways to learn. You learn either through pain and adversity, or you learn through insight and understanding. So why not, life can be challenging enough without making it even harder for ourselves. So why not do our homework and study life and see how it works so we understand the laws, the principles, the processes that govern our life so we can live our lives in harmony with these ideals and then begin to discover what is our purpose, what is my individual purpose, my service here to the world, and by seeing how that fits into our collective purpose, to raise our consciousness to be one with life. So to me, that's really important to do that. And when I first started that journey, I started to notice that my mind was controlling me rather than me controlling my mind.
And how was that?
Well, they say the average person thinks 60,000 thoughts in a day. Okay. And 95% of those thoughts are the same thoughts day in and day out.
Yeah.
So think about the people in your life and think, how predictable are they? Very, because most people are kind of going through life like spectators where they're always reacting to people and circumstances beyond their control, where they're constantly giving their power away. As long as we allow things beyond our control to dominate the things that we can control, we're never really experiencing our power. And I started to see that, wow, you look at, with the right training program, I can completely reshape and recondition my physical body. Would you agree?
Yes.
So what I thought, with the right training program, I can reshape and recondition my consciousness. But it's not going to happen, in a couple of days. It's not going to happen in a couple of weeks. It's a lifestyle. And so to me, that was a huge insight, that these same training principles, I can look at my consciousness up to a certain point in my life was developed by people and circumstances beyond my control. My parents, my environment and school and all that type of stuff. And after the brain surgery, I decided, you know what? I want to change this. And to do that, I've got to consciously exercise these muscles that most people, we don't really exercise it until we have to.
Absolutely.
When do most people pray?
When there's a need to do it. It's like when they're down and it's suffering.
Yeah, it's their last option.
Right.
And when do they stop? When do they stop praying?
When everything is done and fine, and when it's all good. That's sad. It really is. When you really point that out, that's how it works, how it operates, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be that way. And consciousness is awareness. And, when you break down prayer scientifically, it's very focused thought. It's usually in the positive. It's usually accompanied with the emotions of faith and trust and love. It's very, very powerful. And if we can if we can learn to consciously use our thoughts and our emotions in this way, you'd be amazed at what we can create in our own lives.
So when you started to work on the consciousness, what did that look like for you? Because it's like the mind has so many thoughts, like you said, and it's not something. What I say is like we're going to be a work in progress until the day we die, and we can come back and still come into the same lesson or whatever. It's never gonna, you know what I mean? It'll always be. Do you feel the same thing or not?
Well, I feel like we're all humans in training to evolve to God consciousness.
Okay.
So it's up to us whether we want to get into that game plan and participate in it and achieve that, or we want to ignore it and keep making life difficult for ourselves. Because these same lessons will keep coming by again and again and again. Every time the same lesson comes back, it comes back harder. And I figured that I only like to get beat up so much before I decide, there's got to be a better way.
Right.
Because this isn't working. And so to me that was a big realization from my end, that just like I did in sports, is just get in the game and understand how it's played, understand all that kind of stuff so I know what I'm doing. And then I started to see part of my preparation is also taking the time for prayer and meditation and things like that. And one of the interesting things I found is that when I stopped playing hockey, one of the things I missed more than anything was practice.
Oh, why was that?
And I thought, because it seemed that for 2 hours every single day, I was completely focused. I was fully living in the present moment. I was in that, what athletes call the zone, where I wasn't thinking. And without even knowing what meditation was, for 2 hours every day for my entire life, I've been meditating for 2 hours.
Got it.
And all of a sudden, I was stuck with myself for 24/7.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I'm going, I missed practice. I didn't know it wasn't really practice I missed. I missed having a break from me and quieting my mind and living fully in the present moment rather than stressing about the future or, being angry or having something about the past. And so I learned how to take that same energy and just focus in on life. And as I did that and turned my senses from the outside to the inside, I just discovered a whole new world, and that I could really connect with myself. The way that I see it is, like we're all waves in the ocean of spirit. And taking that time, a quiet time, was me connecting to the ocean, recognizing that I am one with the ocean and feeling the power of the ocean inside of me. And feeling that and really just feeling the love and the inner peace. And I always joke to people that I thought it was called piece of car, piece of house, piece of job, piece of other stuff. But really, when we look in all the wrong places, for a lot of people, it's a scary journey to go inside.
Yeah. Yeah, because what are they going to find that they're not going to like?
I've seen Fortune 500 executives who are worth millions of dollars in tears. Because they're scared. What if I don't like what I see?
Right.
And that's a scary journey for them. It's like, well, it's okay to be scared, but if you want inner peace, if you want to connect with yourself, and really, as you connect with yourself, you can really connect with everyone else. And that means your kids, it means your partner, it means all those things. But be willing to take the journey because you're only going to discover more of you. And I think that to me was, it's been a real gift to be able to work with people the last 10 years or so and help them find those places in themselves so they can just consciously participate in their life and get a balance and see that they can manifest things as long as it's in for their highest good.
So how do you do that? How do you work with people, in that sort of realm? Because if you do have people that, so do you find people that come to you are ready to do this, or do you find people that are kind of skeptical? I'm not sure if this is for me, but it sounds really good, and I'm not sure I want to take that. So do you find different variety, or?
Definitely, and I always encourage skepticism. I think I'm a skeptic. I don't believe in blind faith, and I don't believe in taking anybody's word for anything. Life is experiential. You don't have to take anybody's advice for anything. You can experience it. If you go to the gym every day for 30 minutes, you're going to get results. Whether you're skeptical or not, whether you like me or not, you do the work, you get the results. That's life. And so what I noticed as I started speaking more and people, looking at my course, I noticed that there was basically 4 types of people. That some people, all I was doing was preparing soil. They hadn't really heard of it before, but they weren't ready, but it was just preparing soil. For some people, I was planting seeds, and those seeds were the right seeds being planted. And for some people, those seeds had already been planted, and all I was doing was putting water on them and fertilizer and letting them grow. And for other people, they were just blossoming. So I saw that there was sort of 4 stages of people, but every stage is important. I mean, in the manifestation process, each stage is important. And so we have to allow people to be where they are and let them discover it for themselves.
Right. So
how I really believe that.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that pain is a great motivator. And you can ask people, is how much pain, how much adversity are you willing to endure before you surrender to the law of life?
And how honest of an answer do you get when you question?
Well, I think with everybody, I think the people that are attracted to my book and attracted to my talks and stuff, that they're already searching.
Right.
Some people, they have all the material stuff in the world, and they're thinking, you know what? So what? It's not what I thought I was going to be. And then other people, it's just they're already on this. As you know, with young kids, is they come in here already kids with an awareness.
Absolutely, yeah.
And an understanding. I mean, I remember my mom telling me she never had to talk to me about God. She says every time she tried to talk to me about God, I looked at her like, yeah, Mom, I know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you get that with your kids. Yeah, I know, Mom. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah,
I already know about all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a parent, she's like, okay, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But so it's just interesting like that I find that we're all ready because we're at a really critical time in human evolution where there's lots of changes taking place.
Now, what do you mean by a critical time in evolution? Why is that?
Well, because we can see with the shape of the planet, with the economy and the way that things are working, that we're in a critical time that if we continue this trend, we're on a path right now of self-destruction.
Right.
So we're at a critical time because with the technology, with the environment, and with these things, that if we don't start coming together in a spirit of cooperation and being able to see the bigger picture, what are we, we're going to end up killing ourselves.
Right, and to also see there's no separation between any of us, or anything for that matter.
Exactly, and that to me is so critical, and to create that picture that we're all waves in the ocean of spirit. Every wave is unique, a unique expression of spirit. But regardless, it's all the same water.
Something you had said, too, about the soil and the seed, and that, it's, you hear a lot of people, I heard this weekend a lot of people, and including myself also, is that you've been reading all these books, you've been doing all this thing for 25 years. And, there has been shifts, but it's not, you know what I mean? So I know there's a timing for everything. So what would you say to, or how would you feel with the Humans in Training, what you do is different than, Wayne Dyer's book or anybody's book, or Hayes has a movie out now, so.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, I wrote the book that I wish someone had written for me. which is like an owner's manual for daily life. And what makes it unique is just the language. It's taking timeless wisdom, the same wisdom that Jesus taught and Buddha taught and Krishna taught and all these great spiritual teachers, but putting it into a modern language and into a way, to me, that blends both science, spirituality, and common sense. I mean, we know the body is a feedback mechanism. Most of my book came to me at 4:30 in the morning. Life, just kept waking me up at 4:30 with these ideas saying, write this, say this. And, I tried to renegotiate to 6:30 in the morning, but 4:30 seemed to be the time that they kept coming through.
Absolutely.
And it's just like when I speak in front of a group, I'm just sort of the vehicle.
Kind of.
And it's like I'm in a meditation because I don't have a conscious thought, doesn't go through my mind the entire time. And the energy in the room will dictate to what depth we're able to go. And so I really believe in the teaching philosophy of Galileo, who said, you don't teach people anything new. You just help them discover the truth that they already know, and you let them live it out.
Ah, how beautifully said.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say to people, is that, you know what, there's no one above you, there's no one below you. We're all students, and we're all teachers.
Right.
We're teammates. And the planet, this is our home, and we've been blessed with this special home and we chose to come here, to grow spiritually. So instead of competing against each other and trying to destroy each other for our differences, why don't we raise our consciousness to see our common ground? Because I really believe that regardless of our race, our religion, or the nation we come from, we'll always have more in common with each other than we could possibly have in difference. And prayer works in all religion.
Oh, absolutely. Well,
it doesn't just work in a few select. It doesn't just work in a few select denominations.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. No, I fully agree with that. And I think what comes up for me, and I don't know about anybody else listening, because I am not a gym person. Never have been. Never liked it. I have my own thing that I do. I walk and then I jog back, and I do a half an hour because that works for me. But so when I think of humans in training and dare to go to the gym, I think, okay, if I go to you, am I going to have to work out at the gym? You know what I mean? I'm thinking of equipment, and I know it's not about that. But can you kind of give an idea of what that looks like when you're talking about? Because we talked a lot about working out and you being a goalie and all the mental and the physical and the skill training. So can you kind of share with us a little bit about how you do work with an individual? And also to let us know, if you do it over the phone or if you have this person has to be in physical form for you to work with them. Can you share with us?
I often do seminars where I have groups. Because I enjoy the group dynamics, but I've also done some one-on-one coaching with people who couldn't be there for to go through it as a group. Or oftentimes when people go through my program, they want to continue just sort of with some one-on-one coaching until they make sure they get into the groove of things. But the reason why I like to use we all have a body in common. And that's the one thing I try to use an analogy, a way that, everyone could relate to. And our body is our vehicle, and it's the one thing we're guaranteed to keep our entire time here. And I find it amazing how most people will treat their cars better than their own bodies.
Yeah.
And yet this is the one thing you're guaranteed to keep. And then you start to think about that and how the body acts not just as a perfect feedback mechanism to our physical exercises, but also the body's our warehouse of our mental and emotional. I mean, last time I was at the neurologist, the doctor told me, he said, Jay, keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. And I was like, come on, man. I said, you didn't spend all that time in med school to come up with that solution.
Absolutely. Really. Can you give me something a little more than that?
Yeah, give me something a little meatier.
Yeah, exactly.
And, exactly. And so he says to me, Jay, he says, everything I learned in medical school, you should have been dead a long time ago. He says, I can't explain why you're still here or how you're still here. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Well, no, I really appreciated his honesty.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever had to deal with neurologists before, they're not usually the most charismatic folks on the planet.
No.
And he was real, nice and stuff. And then I said, doctor, I said, do you agree that thoughts have the power to cause an illness? And he said, yeah, you know what, I do. I believe that. And he says science is beginning to validate that now. You can see with ulcers and other things where stress is causing the disease. And so I said, do you believe that? And I said, so doctor, let me ask you, if you believe that thoughts have the power to cause an illness, what do you think about the concept that thoughts have the power to cure an illness?
Anything?
Well, he said, I never thought of it. I said, well, you understand the placebo effect, right? The medical community uses the placebo effect all the time. My question was, instead of spending billions of dollars on new drugs, why not spend billions of dollars trying to figure out how the hell this placebo effect works? Because again, everything we need, we already have. The body knows how to heal itself. But we have to do is allow the body to work at its efficiency, and we do that by we have to heal the past, as you know, through forgiveness. Because if we don't, we hold on to that, and it creates spiritual energy blocks in our own being, in our own energy. Right? It just makes our own life more difficult. And what we really want to do is get people to stand in their power. And to stand in your power, you have to embrace your power and believe that everything you need you already have. And then be willing to go into your past and to do your homework and to forgive and to let go of any anger or resentment or fear. You know, we see a lot of people in our society with a huge fear of rejection, fear of failure. You see a lot of people, too, with self-sabotage through, fear of success because they don't feel worthy. And so my whole concept is, well, it's hard to believe in something that you don't understand, and we don't usually value the things that we don't believe in or understand because we don't get taught this stuff in school.
No, and it should be.
It should be.
It would be great if it was starting at the youngest that they can, understand.
Absolutely. Because, the way that I looked at it was that the height of our success is in direct proportion to the strength of our foundation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, it's like if you build a house, the strength of the house is going to be built on the foundation of how the house is built.
Exactly. And then we live in a society where our foundation has been randomly developed by people and circumstances beyond our control. And then we go to the seminar that are trying to change our behaviors and habits, but our foundation can't support these changes. So we end up going back to our old ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So where you come from, what I'm hearing is that you come from the place of you start with the foundation.
Exactly. We strengthen the foundation.
Right. So what does that look like? So when you do your seminars, you don't have to go into, as much detail as you want. We've got about 8 minutes, but I want to make sure that people at the very end have an opportunity to know how they can get your book, how they can reach you, and all this information. So about, when it gets closer to the end, I want to make sure that they get all that information. So, but as much information as you can give us, what that looks like as far as...
Well, understand that it's a combination of inner work and outer activity. We have to do both. We're spiritual and creative beings. We're living in the physical world. We have to work on both ends. And it starts with awareness, right? The awareness of a weakness is the beginning of strength. And it's also a combination of understanding. You need to understand the rules, the laws, the principles, the processes. You need to understand this stuff. And then you need to take the action. And the action, again, working on all levels, working on the mental level, working on the conscious level, beginning to recondition the mind so it's working for you and not against you. Working with the subconscious mind. There's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system. It's the filtering mechanism to the subconscious mind. And we can consciously, initiate and program this part of the brain if we know how to do so. And then there's the superconscious part of the brain, which is our connection. That's where our ideas and inspiration come from. And we can open that up. I always thought intuition was a rumor. I thought it was a secret weapon that you girls had against us guys. and then I found out, too, that I have it as well. Mm-hmm. I just never learned how to listen because my mind was always making so much noise. And I always used to give my mind so much attention because I used to think my mind was credible. It's like all that noise. I just said instead of letting it go and getting to that place. And then I discovered that silence is power. When we find that place of silence within us, then we can connect to to God. That's where we can connect to all the wisdom, the love, and truth that's out there. And then we become a channel for that as well. And to me, that's very powerful. So it begins, we work on the mental. The emotional muscles are very important. The fear, the sorrow, the anger, recognizing what we're holding on to, the source of what we're holding on to, and then consciously letting it go through forgiveness. And regardless of the other person, where they're at or not, that we do it for ourselves because we understand what it's doing to our energy. Otherwise, we're just holding each other back.
Right.
And, having, been on a lot of sports teams, that's the nice thing about having a teammate is you're not alone.
Right.
There's an accountability factor, and there's also a support factor. And to think as human beings, we're not alone. We act like we are.
Yeah, because we separate ourselves.
We separate ourselves because, we focus on what we have in difference. And we have so much fear that, oh my gosh, if I make myself vulnerable, they're going to take advantage of me. Right? And then understand, I started to see finally that in order for me to live a soul-focused and heart-centered life, I need to open myself up to those possibilities to truly live. Because if without my heart being open, I'm not really living. I'm just going through the motions.
Right. So how did you open up your heart? Was that through all this realizations?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with going within and doing the quiet time, sort of the meditation. And also trying to take that into the other areas of my life where saying that, I can handle whatever happens, that I understand that I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, that in order for me to truly live, I can't be holding back all the time. A lot of people, we're always holding back because afraid that it might not work out. We don't want to be disappointed. We don't want to be hurt. But then we're not really living or experiencing life anyway. So I started to put myself out there, and I guess for me at that time too, it wasn't that hard in a sense because I was diagnosed and sort of given up to say, hey, but I mean, like a lot of people, how many of us like to be told what to do? Right. And I went to California when I was 19, and I went skydiving and bungee jumping and firewalking and knife fighting and you name it, anything death-defying and crazy. I tried it.
That's because you're a goalie.
Yeah, because I was a goalie. One too many Blackhawks. But it always brought me back to the same place, and that was God within me. Because the question that I wanted answered, and the question that I want, that my goal for my book is to answer, is what is the one thing that if I work on this, everything else will fall into place.
So what do you mean by
that one thing being our spirit, our soul is the deepest part of our being. That's the causal level. Everything else flows from there. So we can begin to exercise that and then bring that into all the other parts of our life.
Got it.
And that's what we really want to do. We've got to go deeper to go higher. And that means we have to be afraid because it's when you go in through the meditation and the prayer, that's where you really take control of the mind. Because think about prayer is very focused thought, very deliberate. And when you do the meditation, you stop reacting to your thoughts. You just let them go.
Yeah, this weekend I had 5 days of silent meditation retreat, so I know
God bless
exactly
you.
what you're. And you know what? It was the most amazing, phenomenal. But I don't want to take away from the show with what we're talking about. But yes, I haven't understood. Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, that was why it was called a silent retreat.
Yeah.
To stay in the process and be in the meditation, the prayer, exactly, and feel what it is you're feeling, and without making thoughts go on, and you know what I mean? Taking one thought and building and building and building on it.
Yeah, and getting carried away. I mean, they say 95% of stuff we worry about never even happens.
No.
Right?
Take something out of it, yeah.
But in that place of silence, you can feel God. You become aware of God inside of you. And you become, you see that we live in such an intelligent, dynamic universe where purpose is behind everything. And then we see that same purpose is inside each of us. And it's what makes our heart beat and what makes our body heal and what makes the planet heal, that we're all one and the same, that we're all connected. And you really discover that through that quiet time where you can get to experience this oneness rather than just, you need to read about it and learn about it, but then you also need to experience it so that you can bring it into your life. And a 5-day silent retreat, that sounds like a pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was.
Where were you?
Joshua Tree.
Oh, wow.
Never been there, and oh my gosh, I didn't get a chance to experience all the grounds, but I'm telling you, I mean, my friends, because they're like, you love to talk, which I do. Why do I have a talk show? You know, of course I love to talk. And they're like, how are you going to be silent for 5 days? And I'm like, piece of cake. I've done it before for a 3-day. And
Yeah.
I separated we had roommates, and I separated myself from the roommates just for that purpose, so that I knew it was to stay in the process. And that was the whole point of it, was to feel and just to be, and because we did a lot of meditation, a lot of prayer, a lot of exercise, and, you know, stuff like that. So, but it was actually very simple, although I did break silence Sunday night because it ended on Monday, but I couldn't help. I was like, we had to share, you know. So, but I mean, up until that, it was maybe a half an hour, you know. But still, I thought I did really well.
That sounds like you did.
Go ahead.
Oh, it sounds like you did fantastic.
Yeah, well, then you couldn't shut me up. So now I'm back on a roll. It's like, okay, gotta talk, because I want to share, just like you. I mean, that's what's so wonderful, is we have all something so to share to the people that are listening, to the people out there, that, you know, life can be different, and there is a different way of living. And everything that you're saying is so interesting, because it's everything that went on this weekend. I mean, everything
not by
that you're saying.
accident, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, though I know there was no accident. So I just really want the listeners just to really hear, and anybody who hasn't listened, and you could, because these shows are archived, is to go back to this show and really listen to what you're saying, Jay, because it's so important. And I mean, you know, I want to talk to you afterwards about taking this seminar, because I think it doesn't matter where you're at. I mean, I went on this retreat. I got amazing results. You know, I mean, it was truly amazing. But there's still so much more. You know.
Well, that's the one thing that I've learned. I mean, I've been teaching this now for nearly 10 years, and the more that I learn, the more I realize how much more I have to learn.
Yes.
And I really believe that the beginning of wisdom is when you realize how much you don't know.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah.
When somebody somebody reads my book, or they take my seminar, and then they tell me, "Oh, I totally get it," that's the first sign they don't have a clue.
Right.
It's really ironic. And when they take it the second time, they go, "Oh, I'm starting to realize how much more I have to learn." I'm like, "Yeah, you're starting to get it. That the understanding is infinite. There's always another level to get to. And the only thing that stops us from getting to the next level is us thinking that we're already there."
That we know it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we're thinking that we already know it, and what we know is where we're at. But what we don't know is that there's so many levels beyond that.
Yeah. You're thinking,
and
oh my gosh, like, what level am I at? I've probably got 15,000 more levels, but that's the joy of it, because it just, you know what you said earlier, it just gets better and better and better, and you know what I mean? It's not that it stays better in the sense of, you know, you go from a Porsche to a Maserati. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying, it's that feeling that you have inside, that of the connectedness, of the oneness. That I mean, it
becomes. I get addicted to silence. Yeah. Where, you know, when I was like, you know, in my early 20s, I loved noise. Yeah. You know, I'd have the TV on, radio on. I'd have to date, you know, 3 girls at the same time just to keep myself busy.
Right. Right.
You know, and you see in our society, busyness is like an epidemic. Yeah. You know, they can't survive without their BlackBerry or without their, you know. And then all of a sudden, when you finally experience silence and that connectedness, you look forward to it every day. And to me, it's like, I look at it like, when I do my quiet time, it's when I plug in. I take, you know, in my mind, I'm just plugging into the whole universe.
Where the people who are with the Blueberry, you know, and everything going on, it's because that they don't, to sit and really feel what's going on is scary.
But then I have to open my heart. I discovered that too.
Yeah.
I have to get out of my head and open my heart. And for a lot of people, that means being vulnerable.
Yes.
And we kind of get taught in our society to be tough.
Oh, yeah.
Especially as an athlete, you're not taught to be vulnerable. You don't show any weakness, because if you show weakness, they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me to get over that mindset and say, you know what, the whole joy of life is in the vulnerability. That's where you connect with everybody else. And that's where you open your heart to God. You open your heart, and as you see that, you open your heart to everyone. And that's where you go, oh, this is nice. This is good stuff. And that's where you start to say, like, you get addicted to it, because you're like, I want that silence. Sometimes, you know, I'm driving my car, I just want silence. Because in my car, I can feel the presence. You know? And then I just want to become conscious of it all the time. And that's really cool. And I think that's a gift that we all have. And I think, too, something that you've already discovered is that life is a preparation process. that the lessons that we learn, the skills that we learn, the situations, it's all preparing us to fulfill our individual purpose, which is our service. Our difference that we're here to make in the world, and we all contribute to that.
Right, no matter what it is.
Yeah, and I started to see, as an athlete, I got to learn how to be a teacher. I got to travel around the country teaching hockey, since the age of 13. I also got to learn how to be a speaker because I spoke at awards banquets and a valedictorian and all this kind of stuff. So I started to see that I learned how to speak, I learned how to teach, but I just don't care about hockey anymore. So what about the real game of life? That's what I want to talk about. And started to see how life is preparing us, and then it just continues to evolve and grow from there. And that to me is pretty special when we start to really be a player in life rather than just working hard and hoping for the best.
And don't you see where that, but being the hockey player got you to where, my sense is that, being the goalie and going through all that and having the situation happen brought you to here. You know what I mean? It's interesting how life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's
just preparation, and then the lessons that I learned, and then that led to the next thing, and into the next thing, and into the next thing. And then finally, life is trying to get our attention. And then we can ignore it, then it's going to speak louder. Right. And it's going to give us pain. It's going to give us adversity to say, hey, I'm talking to you. You're here to do some work. I want you to do it. And I always say the relationship between life and us is like a child and a parent. You want to give your child everything. You want your child to succeed. Life wants us to succeed. But we have to live within the divine game plan and within that system and understand that life is a service business. We're here to give. It's not about getting. It's about giving. And that the joy, love, happiness, inner peace, they come from serving others. It doesn't come from getting more stuff. And I think that once we understand that, it's going to make a big difference in our society.
We've got 3 minutes, so I want to make sure, because I have one last question to ask you, or have you give us a gem. But let's give the listeners a way to get in contact with you, so how they can reach you.
Sure. My website is humansintraining.com. So just www.humansintraining.com. My email address is just my name, JAY, @humansintraining.com. And so you can go there to my website, and I'd love to hear from any listeners and any questions that you have. That'd be fantastic.
And then how can they get your book, Jay?
You can get my book from my website, and some of the bookstores have it, depending on where you're listening from. And if you can't get it there, then just send me an email or and order it from the website, and I'll get it into the mail for you right away.
Great. And then we've got 2 minutes, but I'm not sure because I wanted to get clarity on. I keep going into this. Okay, the seminar has said outer activity. Does that mean we have to hike? Does that mean we have to do something?
No, I don't mean physical activity. I mean living our purpose, not the physical exercise.
Okay, because I'm thinking, if his seminar has anything about working out, I am not there.
Yeah, no, it's got nothing to do with physical working out. But what it has to do is understand that you can visualize, you can affirm, you can do all that stuff all day long, right. But life is still an action sport. It means you still got to go out there and, just like you did, start your own talk show.
Right.
You took action. Right. That's the outer activity. You're living your purpose.
So it's kind of like, because, The Secret, that's one kind of The Secret. It's like, you just sit there and you ask for it. No, you really have to put things in motion. And then, what my sense is, you put things into motion and then you surrender. You know what I mean? It's almost like you still have to do the work, obviously. But
you have to be consistent with your thoughts, your feelings, your words, and actions. But also understand that the purpose of life is to give, it's not to get.
Right.
And there's that expression, be careful what you ask for.
Yes.
There's lots of people who have affirmed and visualized that they wanted $1 million, and then they got in a car accident, they get paralyzed from the waist down, they get $1 million in a lawsuit.
Right.
They got what they wanted, but it wasn't for their highest good. And there's a spiritual law, the law of giver-taker, which says if you give for the purpose of getting, it doesn't come back to you.
Right.
But if you give with the purpose of serving, it comes back to you tenfold. So you can't fool life. Life knows your every thought. It knows your intentions. It knows your actions. It's all energy. And we carry that energy within us.
Well, you had a really good gem right there. I don't know if you want to give any of the listeners something else that, if you had to say one thing to the audience, what's the one thing that you...
Oh, that's great. I guess the one thing I'd say is just my whole theme is that everything you need you already have. And then use the exercises, the books, and things like that to discover how to use already what's been created within you. And that begins with God within you. That's the deepest part of you. And think of how great and strong that power is that created this universe and all the great things on it, that's smart enough for these life lessons to come back again and again. And if that same presence and power is inside of you and you learn to exercise and connect with that power, just think of the things that you can overcome, whether it's physical illness or getting a new career or whatever that is, it's already there within you. And that, to me, that's just a huge realization.
Jay, I so appreciate, and it was my honor to have you on the show. And thank you for all this great, I wouldn't even say information, but realization and awareness for people. And I know that you're going to feel like you're going to be getting calls. I just
Blog
feel that
Talk
what you're
Radio
doing is just really important. So I really, again, appreciate you being on the show and taking the time out of your busy schedule to do that.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. And then you guys anybody listening can look forward to next week. It's actually going to be on Monday instead, February 11th at noon. And we'll have a natural born intuitive psychic, Bill Delaney. So thanks again. And thanks, Jay. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Have a great day. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything.
When it comes to choosing a supermarket, why not stick to the facts? Fact is, Albertsons is just better. Nicer, fresher, faster, and friendlier. Come on in and see for yourself. For a delicious dinner this week, stop by the meat department and get Foster Farms split chicken breast or picnic pack, grade A boned in for just 99 cents a pound. And for healthy fall snacking, pick up sweet Honeycrisp apples for only $1.49 a pound. Fresher meats, sweeter produce, better deals. Albertsons. Fact is, it's just better.